Good day, folks. Welcome to Answers Life. Hope everyone's doing great today. I realize it's been a few days ever since I made my last video because the other day when I told you all and called in from work because I was sick, it was legit. For those of you that thought I was maybe faking the funk or you thought I was exaggerating my illness just to have an extra day off from work, no, that was not the case, not even close. In fact, shortly after I got done doing my last video, right when I thought I was getting better and I was gonna be able to carry on with my schedule as I normally would, instead, I would say maybe a half hour or so after I got done with that video, I actually began to feel worse. I began to get the chills, so I had to go back to bed. I went from having the chills to sometime in the middle of the night, I had a fever. So I woke up the next day and the next day I was off from work, thank God. So I told myself that if I don't feel better by the afternoon, I'm gonna check myself in to the hospital. I'm gonna let them run some tests and see what's going on. Unfortunately, that's what I had to do. So I went to the hospital. They ran some tests on me. They asked me they asked me all the normal questions that they would ask whenever you're going in for illness. Cause I was thinking, do I have the virus? Well, to make a long story short, no, I did not have the virus. What I had going on was a very bad respiratory infection. And I'm not going to get into all the details of it because it's pretty nasty. But it was a very bad respiratory infection, and I'll just put it to you like this. Like, shortly after I got to the hospital, I had an accident. I'll just leave it like that. So anyhow, I spent like several hours at the hospital while they were doing all their little tests. So I got back home, fairly late. So after they did all the tests, and and I found out what I had going on, they sent me back home with some antibiotics. There is nothing else they could really do for me. So I came back home, and I just went back to bed, hoping that I would eventually be able to sleep all this off. I continue to drink plenty of water. I continue to eat fruits that are high in vitamin C and antioxidants. I really didn't have an appetite for anything else. I tried eating some soup, but at that time I couldn't hold it down. So the only thing I could eat and hold down was fruit. So that's what I did for about a day and a half or so. And it wasn't until today, today is the first day, I was actually able to eat regular food and hold it down. And I actually feel better today. I'm not 100% today, but I do feel better. Today is the first day that I was able to go all day without getting tired and going to bed. So, anyhow, while I was at the hospital, however, I had to report to my supervisor that I was not going to be at work. I had to call in another day. Well, my supervisor insisted on telling me that I needed to come in. And I text back my supervisor, and I told my supervisor I couldn't. I'm in the hospital. I'm sick. I'm not coming in. So that's why I texted my supervisor. And at that point, I was prepared for whatever. I didn't know whether they were going to terminate my position or what. But I made sure that I had a doctor's excuse. That way, if they try to take my job away, I had something to fight on. So today, they already knew I wasn't coming in because I told them, because I needed a day to kind of, get some nutrients back in my system so I'm not going to work passing out on the floor. Because for those of you that are new to the channel, I don't do sit down cubicle work. My job is physical. So just so you all know, I made the video that I made the other day. There's somebody in the comments that stated, since I was able to make that video, which I think that video was about a half hour, give or take, I was able to go into work that day. And I don't know what comparison a half hour video has to a regular 8 hour day, especially when you do physical labor work like I do. But whatever. So I took today off because I needed to, get some rest. I needed to get some nutrients in my system. So when I went to work, I didn't pass out and potentially become a liability to the company. So, you know, I was kind of keeping an eye on my phone today, and I was waiting for my supervisor to text me back and say something, but nothing. And then finally, I text my supervisor, and I asked my supervisor if they have the new schedule, because where I work, every couple of weeks we get a new schedule. Well, I got my supervisor texted me back, and I was on that new schedule. So as far as I'm concerned, I still have my job. Because like I told you guys the other day, mentally at least, I was prepared for whatever. I was prepared to withdraw some money, buy some supplies, and go out here and give it a try, do my own thing. And eventually I'm going to still do that. But I just think it would be nice for me to have a little bit of money coming in while I try some of these other endeavors. And for those of you that are new to the channel, I'm still trying to sell a house. So I got a crap load of my money tied up into that house. So I am feeling considerably better today. And I do plan on going back to work tomorrow morning. I just took today off, and I got a couple of things done around my house here just to get myself, I guess you can say, get myself back in shape a little bit, get myself back in the swing of work, for a lack of better terms. So as far as I'm concerned, I still got my job, for those of you that were wondering. And again, I apologize for not doing a video the last few days, but I've legitimately been very ill, and I have been so ill that I have not even had enough energy to do a video. Because, during my absence, the only thing I was able to do it was get up, use the restroom, grab something to drink, and then go right back to bed. And of course, feed my cat. That's it. Outside of that, I wasn't able to do much. I wasn't able to do much anything else. I mean, it was a chore and a half just for myself to just for me to be able to drive to the closest hospital because I live in a rural area. I mean, the closest hospital to where I'm at is about a half hour away. So it was a chore just to get that done. But that was something that I had no choice. It had to be done. I wanted to make sure everything was on the up and up or whatever was wrong. I wanted to know what it was so I can address it. So I'm hoping by tomorrow I'm a little better. I'm a little bit more energized. I mean, right now I'm still a little sluggish. I've been drinking water all day, trying to get my hydration levels back up. And I've gotten a couple of things done around the house here, but for the most part, I've been taking it light. I don't want to overexert myself because, like I said, I am going back to work tomorrow. That's my plan anyway. And although I prefer not to have to work a 9 to 5, at the same time, I don't want to let my emotions get in the way of my better judgment. I mean, there's a lot of people out here that are out of work right now and they're out of money. They barely have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. So in a way, I guess I ought to be thankful that I at least have a regular income coming in. I mean, in fact, just got a I just got a phone call earlier from one of my old friends. And he was working for the government and he recently just lost his job. And they recently just purchased a new home and apparently a new vehicle for their teenage child who just received their driver's license. So I feel bad for this individual because now they gotta deal with all that. They gotta deal with all that stuff. So when I compare my situation to other people's situations, my situation could be 10 times worse, and I do realize that. I mean, I do a lot of complaining about my job. I do a lot of complaining about working 9 to 5 because that's generally from the bottom of my heart how I feel. I mean, this channel is called Andrew's Life because I try to discuss topics that are about my life. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat stuff for you guys. I'm not going to tell you guys how lovely it is when, in truth, I think things are pretty fucked up. That's not what I do on this channel. However, the common sense part of me does recognize that the economy right now is complete trash. The job market is super difficult to navigate. And I am grateful to have a regular income coming into my bank every couple of weeks. So while I figure out all this other stuff that I would like to do outside of working a 9 to 5, I am grateful to still have a regular 9 to 5 income coming in. I know for some of you that might be hard to believe, but yes. And I know some of you are probably disappointed because the other day, the way I was talking, some of you guys are probably thinking, well, how come I didn't go out and buy my supplies and let my job go and do my own thing full time? Well, I'm going to explain why I didn't. Now, there were a few of you guys that suggested that I do YouTube full time. I've tried that. it didn't work out the way that I needed it to in order for me to pay all my bills. I'm gonna just keep it real. Now you got other content creators out here that they got the gift of gab, they got the looks. People like him a little. People like him better. It is what it is. Some people they do YouTube full time, and they do good. Me, I tried doing YouTube full time, and it didn't work out for me the way that I was hoping it would work out for me. So me doing YouTube full time at this point is not gonna be anything that it's not gonna be feasible for me to do YouTube full time. At least not right now. And as far as me doing my own thing full time, now if my job would have told me, hey, Andrew, you're fired, whatever, whatever, then at that point I would have went on ahead, got my stuff, and I would have, been out here and try to start my own business. I would try to get customers and everything. Now, for those of you that truly are self-employed, you guys already understand that it's not always the easiest thing in the world to get customers. And the best way to start your own business is to start your own business while you're still working a 9 to 5, which is what I intend to do. I mean, like I told you guys, I do got something I do on the side, but I'm going to work on something else in conjunction to that. But I prefer to do all that while I still have a stable income. That way, if I have some bad days, do my own thing, I'm not sweating it. I still have a stable income. I can still at least pay all my bills and stuff like that. And right now, my health insurance is attached to my job, which my health insurance is a lot cheaper than it would be if I had to get my own insurance. If I had to go through the marketplace to get my insurance, my health insurance would be at least $100 more a month than what it currently is. So me having a 9 to 5 helps in that regard as well. So for those of you that are fed up with your 9 to 5, you want to quit, you want to tell your boss to go fuck themselves, whatever the case might be, I don't blame you. I feel the same damn way. However, there needs to be at least a small part of you that's thinking logically, and you need to really think about a lot of things before you jump the gun and quit your 9 to 5. Like, for one, look at your financial situation. Can you afford to quit your 9 to 5? Can you afford to pay your own health insurance, especially if you're raising a family? And if you do your own business and you have a bad month or two or few, are you going to have enough money in savings to pay all your bills during that time frame? Those are the questions that we all need to ask ourselves before we leave our 9 to 5. And as frustrated as I get working a 9 to 5, I also try to reach back in time to humble myself a little bit. I try to reach back in time. I try to reach back to 2000 to late 2009 and 2010, back when I was living up in Toledo, Ohio. Back during the recession. Because I remember when I was living in Toledo, Ohio, I moved there with a job, and then things didn't work out. I lost that job. It took me 4 months to get another job, and then I got that job, and after about a month and a half, there's like 13 of us. We were working as maintenance people for this huge Section 8 apartment complex, and the owners decided to let go of all of us. The owners decided to get rid of all of us. So I would say maybe a month after that, I got hired on as a assembler at Walmart, and me and the supervisor clashed bad. And after about a couple of months, I got fired. But Even during the times that I was working at those other jobs, the money was poor. The hours were not even full time. And you gotta think back then there were no Door Dashing. There were no Instacart. There were no making a bunch of money on YouTube. See, back in those days, you either worked a regular job or you went broke for the most part. And I remember when I was living up in Toledo, when I got fired from Walmart, I packed up a few articles of clothes, some non-perishable goods, and that's when I went over to Indiana to try my luck in Indiana when it came to looking for work. And I would never forget that time. I remember when I first got to Indiana, uh, I was in Indianapolis, and I would say I spent a good couple of weeks sleeping in my car. And at the time, I had a two-door Chevy Cavalier. Like during the day, I get up, I go to the gym, take a shower, I go to the library, jump on the computer, look for work. If anybody called me in for an interview, I go for an interview. Any place they required me to apply in person, I get that done. And then in between time, I grab a bite to eat. And then when it gets dark, I go to there is a truck stop on the northwest side of Indianapolis, located by McDonald's it was on West 71st Street. I went to that truck stop and that's where I slept for 2 weeks straight. And even after I got my first job in Indianapolis, I still continued to live out of my car for a little bit of time in order to save up a little bit of money for my down payment for my apartment. So when I think of what I've been through in the past, when it comes to this type of an economy that we're going through right now, which is the reason why right now I say we are in a recession. I know that technically we're not in a recession, but I say we are. The government is just not being honest about it. But anyways, this is the reason why I try to calm myself down a little bit and use a little bit of rational thinking and try not to jump the gun too much when it comes to quit my job. Because I can get emotional, quit my job, come back, make a video, hey man, I quit my job, and talk all kinds of trash about the company, as other content creators have done. I can do that too. But unless that video goes viral, unless every video I do after that does very well, which I'm not holding my breath on that. I don't have my self-esteem ain't low. I'm just being realistic. But unless something like that happens, I could very well end up broke again, just like I was back in 2009, 2010. I don't want that to happen. I mean, I have a little bit of a nest egg and I prefer to leave it alone. So that's why I'm still going to continue to work my 9 to 5 despite all the complaining I do about my 9 to 5. Now, am I going to quit complaining about 9 to 5? No. I mean, because this channel, again, this is Andrew's life. So anything that goes on that I want to vent about, I'm going to go ahead and vent it. Sometimes people can learn from some of the things I say. Sometimes it might just be entertainment value. I mean, whatever. All right, folks, that's all I got for this one. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Stay blessed. I'll catch you on the next one.